The morning sun cast long shadows across the military base as Sergeant Maria Rodriguez stepped out of the mess hall, her coffee still steaming in the cool desert air. Camp Pendleton was bustling with its usual activity: Marines jogging in formation, vehicles moving supplies, and the distant sound of training exercises echoing across the vast California landscape. Maria had been stationed here for 18 months, and she thought she had seen everything. But as she walked toward the motor pool to check on vehicle maintenance, something caught her eye near the main road that ran along the eastern perimeter of the base. A flash of golden-brown fur moved between the scrub brush and abandoned concrete barriers left over from old construction projects. She squinted against the morning glare and took a few steps closer. What she saw made her heart skip a beat. A large German shepherd was moving carefully through the brush, and behind her, stumbling and tumbling in an effort to keep up, were 4 tiny puppies that couldn't have been more than 6 weeks old. The mother dog was magnificent despite her obvious exhaustion. Her coat was thick and beautiful, though matted with dust and burrs from living in the wild. She moved with the careful precision of a mother who knew danger lurked everywhere, constantly looking back to check on her babies, then scanning ahead for threats. Her ears were always alert, rotating like radar dishes to catch every sound. The puppies were adorable but clearly struggling. Their little legs weren't built for the rough terrain their mother was navigating. They stumbled over rocks, got tangled in low bushes, and occasionally let out tiny whimpers when they fell behind. The smallest one, a little female with one ear that stood up while the other flopped down, seemed to have the most trouble keeping pace. Maria realized the family was heading toward the main road, a busy stretch of asphalt where military vehicles, delivery trucks, and civilian cars traveled at high speeds throughout the day. Her stomach tightened as she understood the danger these innocent animals were walking into. She pulled out her radio and called her squad leader. "Sergeant Thompson, this is Rodriguez. I've got a situation near the East Perimeter Road. There's a mother dog with puppies heading toward traffic. Requesting permission to investigate." "Rodriguez, are you talking about stray dogs? We've had reports about wild animals in that area. Animal control was supposed to handle it last week." "Sir, these aren't just strays. This is a German shepherd, mother with very young puppies, and they're about to walk into traffic. I think we need to do something." There was a pause on the radio. "Maintain safe distance and observe. Don't approach unknown animals. I'll send backup to your location." Maria acknowledged the order but kept watching the dog family with growing concern. The mother had stopped about 50 yards from the road's edge and was clearly assessing the situation. Cars and trucks were passing by at regular intervals, their engines roaring as they maintained highway speeds. The noise seemed to confuse and frighten the puppies, who huddled closer to their mother. The German shepherd appeared to be trying to time the traffic patterns. She would take a few steps toward the road when there was a gap in vehicles, then retreat when she heard approaching engines. It was clear she had done this before. Her movement showed the learned caution of an animal who understood the deadly nature of the asphalt river she needed to cross. But why was she trying to cross at all? Maria studied the terrain on both sides of the road. On this side, where the dogs currently stood, the land was harsh and dry with little vegetation and no obvious water source. Across the road, she could see green areas with better shelter and what looked like a small creek running through a grove of trees. The mother was trying to get her family to safety and better resources. As Maria watched, 2 more Marines approached her position. Corporal James Washington and Private First Class Alex Chen had been sent as her backup. Both men were animal lovers. Washington had grown up on a farm in Georgia, and Chen had volunteered at animal shelters before enlisting. "Holy cow, would you look at that?" Washington whispered as he spotted the dog family. "That mama's got herself a real problem." Chen knelt down and pulled out a pair of binoculars. "Those puppies can't be more than a month and a half old. They're way too young to be out here on their own." The 3 Marines positioned themselves where they could observe without getting too close. They had all been trained that approaching unknown animals could be dangerous, especially a mother protecting her young. But they also couldn't just watch if the situation became life-threatening. The German shepherd made another attempt toward the road. This time she got within 20 feet of the asphalt before a large military transport truck came roaring past, its massive wheels and diesel engine creating a thunderous noise that sent all 4 puppies scrambling backward in terror. The smallest puppy, the one with the floppy ear, tumbled over completely and let out a frightened yelp. The mother immediately abandoned her approach and went to comfort her babies, nuzzling each one and using her body to shield them from the direction of the road. But Maria could see the determination in the dog's posture. She wasn't giving up, she was just regrouping. "She's going to try again," Maria said quietly. "And next time, some of those puppies might not follow her back." Washington nodded grimly. "Traffic's getting heavier too. It's almost 800 hours, rush hour for the civilian workers coming onto base." As if to prove his point, a convoy of 3 military vehicles passed by in quick succession, followed immediately by a civilian delivery truck and 2 cars. The continuous noise and vibration seemed to agitate the mother dog further. She began pacing back and forth, clearly becoming more desperate to get her family across to safety. Chen lowered his binoculars and looked at his fellow Marines. "We can't just watch this happen. If she tries to cross during heavy traffic with those babies." He didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew what could happen. The image of the beautiful German Shepherd and her innocent puppies facing the rushing traffic was heartbreaking to contemplate. Maria felt the weight of decision pressing on her shoulders. Military protocol was clear about approaching unknown animals, but her human instincts were screaming that something had to be done. The mother dog was clearly intelligent and caring, but she was about to make a choice that could end in tragedy for her entire family. The stage was set for a crisis that would test both the courage of the Marines and the determination of a mother's love. The German Shepherd mother seemed to sense that time was running out. The morning was getting warmer, and her puppies were showing signs of exhaustion and thirst. Their tiny pink tongues hung out as they panted, and they were no longer playfully tumbling around but instead staying close to their mother's side with the instinctive knowledge that danger was near. Maria watched through her binoculars as the mother dog moved to a small rise that gave her a better view of the road. From this vantage point, she could see traffic approaching from both directions. Her intelligence was remarkable. She was clearly trying to find the longest possible gap between vehicles to make her crossing attempt. "Look at that," Chen whispered in amazement. "She's actually studying the traffic patterns." Washington nodded. "My granddad's old farm dog used to do something similar when we had to cross the county road to get to the back pasture. Smart animals learned to read danger, but as they watched, it became clear that the mother's intelligence might not be enough. The road was simply too busy, and the puppies were too small and slow to make a quick crossing. Even if she found a gap in traffic, it would take at least 30 seconds for the entire family to cross the 2-lane road. And that was longer than most traffic breaks lasted. The smallest puppy, the one with the floppy ear, suddenly sat down and refused to move any further. She was clearly exhausted from the morning's journey. The mother went back to her, gently nudging and encouraging, but the little one just looked up with tired eyes and whimpered softly. "That baby's done in," Washington observed. "She can't go much further." The other 3 puppies seemed to be in better shape, but they were all showing signs of fatigue. One of them, a chunky male with distinctive black markings around his eyes, lay down next to his sister in solidarity. Soon all 4 puppies were sprawled on the ground, their little bellies heaving as they tried to catch their breath. The mother dog became visibly agitated. She walked in a tight circle around her babies, occasionally looking toward the road and then back at her exhausted family. Maria could almost see the conflict playing out in the dog's mind. The desperate need to reach safety and water versus the physical limitations of her very young puppies. Suddenly, the German Shepherd made a decision that surprised everyone watching. She picked up the smallest puppy gently in her mouth and began walking toward the road. Her plan was apparently to carry them across one by one. "Oh no," Maria breathed. "She's going to try to ferry them." This was an even more dangerous plan. It would require multiple trips back and forth across the busy road, and each trip would leave some puppies alone and vulnerable while she transported others. Plus, the mother would be exhausted by the end, making her own crossing more dangerous. The 3 Marines exchanged worried glances. They all knew they had to act, but they also knew they had to be smart about it. Approaching the dogs incorrectly could scatter the family or provoke a defensive response from the mother. "Rodriguez," Washington said quietly, "call base command. Tell them we need animal control out here immediately. And maybe the base veterinarian too." Maria got on her radio while keeping her eyes on the unfolding drama. Base Command, this is Sergeant Rodriguez at East Perimeter Road. We have a situation with a mother dog and puppies attempting to cross a busy road, requesting immediate assistance from Animal Control and Veterinary Services. Rodriguez, what's your exact location and current status? We're approximately half a mile south of Checkpoint Delta, east side of Perimeter Road. Mother German Shepherd with 4 young puppies is attempting to cross during heavy traffic. Imminent danger to animals, understood. Animal Control is 20 minutes out. Maintain safe distance and do not approach the animals, 20 minutes. Maria looked at the scene unfolding before them and knew they might not have 20 minutes. The mother dog had reached the edge of the road with the small puppy in her mouth. She was waiting for a break in traffic, but cars and trucks continued to stream past at dangerous speeds. A large semi-truck approached from the north, its engine noise growing louder. The German Shepherd took a step back from the road's edge, but she didn't retreat far. The determination in her posture was unmistakable. She was going to make this crossing attempt. The truck passed, followed by 2 cars traveling close together. Then there was a gap. The mother dog stepped onto the asphalt. "She's going for it," Chen said tensely. The German Shepherd moved quickly but carefully across the first lane, the puppy secure in her gentle grip. She reached the center line just as another car appeared around a curve to the south, moving fast. Maria's heart pounded as she watched the dog freeze in the middle of the road, caught between the approaching car and the need to complete her crossing. The driver apparently saw her and began to slow down, but the car was still moving at considerable speed. The mother dog made a split-second decision. Instead of continuing across, she turned and ran back to the east side of the road, still carrying her puppy. The car passed through the space where she would have been just seconds later. "Smart move," Washington said with relief. "But this isn't sustainable. She's going to get trapped in the middle eventually." The German Shepherd carried the puppy back to where the other 3 were waiting and gently set her down. But instead of taking a break, she immediately picked up the chunky male puppy and headed back toward the road. She was committed to this plan despite the obvious dangers. This time, the 3 remaining puppies seemed to understand what was happening. They began to whimper and follow their mother toward the road, not wanting to be left behind. This created an even more dangerous situation. Now the mother had to manage 1 puppy in her mouth while 3 others trailed behind her, potentially getting in the way or wandering into traffic. "This is getting out of hand," Maria said, her training as a Marine warring with her instincts as a human being. "We can't just stand here and watch this family get killed." Chen was thinking the same thing. "What if we create a traffic break? One of us could flag down cars while the other 2 help guide the family across safely." "That's not protocol," Washington reminded them. "We're supposed to wait for Animal Control." "Forget protocol," Maria said firmly. "Sometimes you have to do what's right, not what's written in a manual." She made her decision. Military training had taught her to assess situations quickly and act decisively when lives were at stake. These might not be human lives, but they were lives nonetheless, and she had the power to save them. "Chen, get on the radio and guide any approaching traffic away from this section of road if possible. Washington, you're with me. We're going to try to help this family." "Rodriguez, are you sure about this?" Washington asked, though his expression showed he was ready to follow her lead. "I'm sure. That mother dog has enough courage to risk her life for her babies. The least we can do is show the same kind of courage to help them." The 3 Marines began to move into position, their military training kicking in as they planned their approach to what was essentially a rescue operation. The German Shepherd mother, still unaware that help was coming, continued her dangerous mission to save her family. Maria moved with the practiced efficiency of a trained Marine, but she also drew on memories from her childhood when her family had rescued stray animals in their neighborhood back in Texas. The key was to approach slowly and calmly, showing the mother dog that they weren't a threat, while also positioning themselves to help manage the dangerous situation. "Washington, circle around to the north side but stay back about 30 yards, she instructed quietly. "Chen, maintain radio contact and keep monitoring traffic. If you see a big gap coming from either direction, let us know immediately." The German Shepherd mother had made it to the road's edge again with the chunky male puppy in her mouth. This time the 3 remaining puppies had followed her and were clustered nervously at the asphalt's edge, whimpering softly. The mother was clearly torn between her desire to cross and her need to keep all her babies together. Maria began her approach, speaking in soft, gentle tones. Hey there, beautiful girl. I see you're trying to take care of your babies. We want to help you. The German Shepherd's head snapped toward Maria's voice. Her ears went forward in alertness, and she gently set the puppy down while keeping her body positioned protectively between her babies and this new human presence. Her tail was neutral, not wagging but not aggressively raised either. She was cautious but not immediately hostile. Easy, Mama, good girl. I know you're scared, but we're here to help, Maria continued, taking slow steps closer while keeping her body language relaxed and non-threatening. She had learned from her grandfather, who had been a veterinarian, that animals could read human intentions through posture and voice tone. The mother dog tilted her head slightly, studying Maria with intelligent brown eyes. There was something in her gaze that suggested she had once known human kindness. This wasn't a completely wild animal. She had been someone's pet at some point, though clearly she had been living rough for weeks or maybe months. Behind the mother, the 4 puppies were exploring the edge of the road with the fearless curiosity of babies who didn't understand danger. The smallest one, the female with the floppy ear, actually stepped onto the asphalt and began walking toward the center line. "Puppy on the road," Washington called out in alarm. The mother dog spun around and quickly retrieved her wandering baby, carrying her back to safety. But the incident highlighted just how precarious the situation was becoming. The puppies were too young to understand commands or stay in one place, and their natural curiosity was putting them in constant danger. Maria seized the moment while the mother was focused on her babies. She moved several steps closer, now within about 15 feet of the dog family. From this distance, she could see the mother's condition more clearly. Despite her beautiful coat and obvious intelligence, she was thin and showed signs of nursing. Her teats were swollen with milk, and her ribs were slightly visible beneath her fur. She had been struggling to find enough food to support herself and her babies. "You're hungry, aren't you, girl?" Maria said softly. "And you know there's water and better shelter across that road. You're trying to take care of your family." The German Shepherd looked at Maria again, and for just a moment her guard seemed to drop slightly. There was exhaustion in her eyes and something that almost looked like hope. She needed help, and some part of her seemed to recognize that these humans might be offering it. Chen's voice crackled over the radio. "I've got a convoy of military vehicles approaching from the north about 2 minutes out. After they pass, there should be a decent gap in traffic." This was their chance. Maria knew she had to act quickly to gain the mother dog's trust before the traffic situation changed again. She slowly reached into her cargo pocket and pulled out half of a protein bar she had been saving for later. Breaking it into small pieces, she tossed one gently toward the mother dog, making sure it landed several feet away so the dog wouldn't feel threatened. The German Shepherd sniffed the air and immediately detected the food. She was clearly hungry, but her maternal instincts kept her focused on her puppies rather than her own needs. She nudged the food closer to her babies instead of eating it herself. "That's what I thought," Maria murmured with admiration. "You're putting your babies first." The sight of the mother dog sacrificing her own meal for her puppies touched something deep in Maria's heart. This was exactly the kind of selfless courage that Marines were trained to respect and emulate. This animal was a warrior protecting her family, just like any soldier in combat. Washington had positioned himself on the other side of the dog family and was also offering food from his own rations. The mother dog was now aware of both Marines, but seemed to understand that they were trying to help rather than harm her family. The convoy of military vehicles that Chen had spotted came rumbling past, 3 large trucks and 2 Humvees traveling in formation. The noise and vibration seemed to remind the German Shepherd of her urgent need to cross the road. As soon as the last vehicle passed, she picked up the chunky male puppy again and headed toward the asphalt. But this time, Maria was ready. "Wait, Mama. Let us help." She moved quickly but calmly to position herself between the dog family and the road. The mother dog stopped, confused by this human blocking her path but not acting aggressively. "Chen, any traffic coming?" Maria called out. All clear for about 90 seconds from the north. 2 cars approaching from the south, but they're still pretty far away. Maria made a crucial decision. She slowly reached toward the German Shepherd, speaking continuously in soothing tones. "I know you don't completely trust me yet, but your babies need help. Let us carry them across safely." The mother dog stood very still as Maria's hand approached. For a tense moment, it could have gone either way. The dog could have snapped defensively or fled with her babies. Instead, she seemed to make her own decision to trust these humans who were offering help. Maria gently touched the mother's head, and the dog didn't pull away. The contact seemed to establish a connection between them, a mutual understanding that they were both trying to protect these innocent lives. "Washington, can you reach the other puppies?" Maria asked. "I'm on it," he replied, slowly gathering the 3 remaining puppies. They wiggled and whimpered softly but didn't struggle too much. The smallest female even seemed to relax in his large, gentle hands. The mother dog watched anxiously as Washington picked up her babies, but she didn't interfere. Some instinct seemed to tell her that these humans understood the urgency of the situation and had the capability to help in ways she couldn't manage alone. "Traffic's coming from the south," Chen announced. "We've got maybe 30 seconds before the next car arrives." This was it, the moment when their impromptu rescue mission would either succeed or fail. Maria looked into the German shepherd's intelligent eyes and saw a mother's desperate hope reflected there. "Come on, beautiful girl. Let's get your family to safety." The crossing happened with military precision mixed with the tenderness of a rescue operation. Maria stepped onto the asphalt first, her training automatically scanning for approaching traffic while her heart focused on the precious lives depending on her. The German shepherd mother followed immediately beside her, her natural intelligence understanding that she needed to stay close to this human who was helping her family. Washington moved behind them, carefully cradling 3 squirming puppies against his chest. The little ones seemed to sense the importance of the moment and had stopped their playful wiggling, instead pressing close to the warmth and security of his uniform. "Looking good," Chen's voice came through the radio. "Traffic's still clear from the north. You've got about 40 seconds before those cars from the south reach you." The mother dog's paws clicked softly on the asphalt as she trotted beside Maria. Despite her obvious exhaustion and the stress of the situation, she moved with the grace and alertness of her breed. Her head swiveled constantly between Maria and Washington, making sure both her human helpers and all 4 of her babies were accounted for. Halfway across the road, the smallest puppy, the female with the floppy ear, began to whimper loudly. The sound immediately caught her mother's attention, and the German shepherd stopped in the middle of the road, torn between continuing forward and going back to comfort her baby. "Keep moving, Mama," Maria said gently but firmly. "Washington's got her. She's safe." The mother dog looked up at Maria with those intelligent brown eyes, and again there was that moment of connection. A mother recognizing another protector. She resumed her crossing, but Maria could see her ears constantly rotating toward the sound of her baby's cries. They reached the far side of the road with 15 seconds to spare. The first car from the south passed by just as Washington stepped onto the shoulder, his precious cargo of puppies safe in his arms. The German shepherd mother immediately went to her babies, sniffing each one thoroughly to make sure they were unharmed. "Mission accomplished," Washington said with a grin, gently setting the puppies down on the soft grass beside the road. But their work wasn't finished. Now they were on the west side of the road with a dog family that was still homeless, hungry and in need of care. The area here was indeed better than where they had come from. There was more vegetation, and Maria could hear the sound of running water somewhere nearby. But it wasn't a permanent solution. The German shepherd seemed to understand this too. She gathered her puppies close and looked around at her new surroundings, but there was still worry in her posture. She had successfully moved her family away from immediate danger, but she was still a mother with no safe den and limited resources to care for her babies. "Chen, what's the status on animal control?" Maria asked into her radio. "They're about 10 minutes away now. Base Command wants to know if the situation is under control." Maria looked at the dog family. The puppies were already exploring their new environment, their resilience and adaptability amazing to watch. The mother was drinking from a small puddle left by recent rain, her thirst obviously desperate. "Tell Base Command the immediate danger is resolved, but we need to stay with the animals until animal control arrives," Maria replied. Washington had found the source of the water sound, a small creek that ran through a grove of trees about 50 yards from the road. "This looks like a good spot for them," he called out. "Fresh water and plenty of shade." The German shepherd's ears perked up at the mention of water, and she seemed to understand his gestures toward the trees. But she was hesitant to move her babies again so soon. The crossing had been traumatic for all of them, and the puppies were showing signs of exhaustion. Maria realized they needed to help the family get fully settled before animal control arrived. She also had a growing concern about what would happen when the authorities took over. Military animal control was efficient, but their primary concern would be removing the animals from base property, not necessarily ensuring the best outcome for this particular family. Washington, can you carry the little ones to the creek area? I think Mama will follow if she sees her babies are safe. Roger that, Washington replied, once again gathering the puppies. This time they seemed more comfortable with him, and the smallest female actually licked his hand with her tiny pink tongue. The German Shepherd watched nervously as Washington began walking toward the trees with her babies. But when Maria started walking alongside him, the mother dog seemed to understand that this was another collaborative effort to help her family. She followed closely, occasionally nudging Maria's leg as if to confirm that this human was still her ally. The creek area was perfect. The water was clean and running freely. There were several large trees that provided excellent shade, and the grass was thick and soft, ideal for puppies to rest and play safely. Washington set the little ones down near the water's edge, and they immediately began exploring with renewed energy. The mother dog went straight to the creek and drank deeply, her relief obvious. She had been carrying the weight of keeping her family alive and safe, and for the first time in probably weeks she could relax slightly. The immediate dangers were gone, and her babies were in a safe, comfortable environment. Maria watched the family settling in and felt a deep satisfaction. This was why she had joined the Marines, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. It didn't matter that these were animals rather than humans. The principle was the same, but as she watched the mother dog begin to groom her puppies, a new worry crept into her mind. What would happen to this family now? Animal control would likely take them to a shelter, where they might be separated. The mother was clearly a purebred German Shepherd who would probably be adopted quickly, but her puppies were very young and would need specialized care. Maria? Chen's voice interrupted her thoughts. Animal control just radioed. They're 3 minutes out, 3 minutes. Maria looked at the peaceful scene by the creek. The mother dog nursing her babies in the shade, the puppies tumbling around in the soft grass, the gentle sound of running water. For just a few minutes, this family had found the safety and peace they had been desperately seeking. Washington seemed to be thinking the same thing. Seems a shame to break this up, he said quietly. They look like they belong here. The German Shepherd mother looked up at Maria as if she had heard the conversation. There was gratitude in her eyes, but also a new kind of worry. Animals were often more intuitive than humans gave them credit for, and she seemed to sense that another change was coming. Maria made a decision that surprised even herself. Chen, patch me through to base command. I want to talk to whoever's in charge of this operation. What are you thinking, Rodriguez? Washington asked. I'm thinking that sometimes the best solution isn't the most obvious one. This family has been through enough upheaval. Maybe there's a way to help them that doesn't involve separating them or moving them again. The radio crackled to life. Base command to Sergeant Rodriguez. What's your status? Maria took a deep breath. What she was about to propose was unconventional, but her experience with this remarkable dog family had shown her that sometimes unconventional approaches led to the best outcomes. Base command. I have a request regarding the dog family we just assisted. The voice on the radio belonged to Colonel Sarah Martinez, the base commander who had been monitoring the situation from headquarters. Her tone was professional but curious as she responded to Maria's request. Go ahead, Sergeant Rodriguez. What kind of request are we talking about? Maria chose her words carefully. Ma'am, this German Shepherd mother has shown exceptional intelligence and courage in protecting her family. She's clearly had human contact before and responds well to training. I'd like to propose that instead of sending this family to civilian animal control, we consider integrating them into our base operations. There was a pause on the radio. Washington raised his eyebrows in surprise while Chen grinned and gave Maria a thumbs up. The idea was bold, but it wasn't entirely unprecedented. Military bases had used working dogs for security and other purposes for decades. Explain your reasoning. Sergeant, the colonel's voice came back. Ma'am, German Shepherds are excellent working dogs with strong protective instincts and high intelligence. This mother has already demonstrated problem-solving abilities and courage under pressure. With proper training, she could be valuable for base security. As for the puppies, they could be raised and trained here, potentially becoming working dogs themselves. While Maria spoke, the German Shepherd mother seemed to sense that her fate was being discussed. She moved closer to Maria, sitting down beside her with a posture that showed both alertness and trust. It was as if she was adding her own silent testimony to Maria's proposal. Colonel Martinez was quiet for several moments, presumably considering the implications. Rodriguez, are you familiar with the requirements for military working dogs? The training? The costs? The legal considerations? Yes, ma'am. I researched it for a college paper on military animals. I know it's complex, but I also know that exceptional dogs like this one don't come along often. She's already proven her protective instincts and her ability to work with humans under pressure. The sound of vehicles approaching interrupted the conversation. Animal control had arrived. A white van with the base veterinary services logo, followed by a pickup truck carrying equipment for safely capturing and transporting animals. Two men in uniform got out of the vehicles and began walking toward the creek area. The German Shepherd mother immediately stood up and positioned herself between her puppies and these new arrivals. Her body language shifted from relaxed to alert, though she didn't show aggression. "Easy, girl," Maria said softly, placing a gentle hand on the dog's head. "These are more helpers." The lead animal control officer, Staff Sergeant Mike Chen, no relation to PFC Chen, approached with a catch pole and a carrier crate. His movements were efficient but not particularly gentle, focused on completing his job quickly rather than minimizing stress for the animals. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I'm here to collect the stray dogs. We'll need to get them processed and off base property as soon as possible." Maria stepped forward, her hand still resting protectively on the German Shepherd's head. "Staff Sergeant, I've just spoken with Colonel Martinez about an alternative solution. We're waiting for her decision." The radio crackled again. "Rodriguez, this is Colonel Martinez. I've consulted with the base veterinarian and our security chief. Your proposal has merit, but we need to follow proper protocols. Here's what we're going to do." Everyone present, including the animal control officers, listened intently to the colonel's instructions. The mother dog and her puppies will be temporarily housed at our veterinary facility for health screening and evaluation. If the vet determines they're healthy and suitable for training, and if the mother dog shows aptitude for working dog tasks, we'll consider a trial integration program. Maria felt a surge of hope, but the colonel wasn't finished. "However, Sergeant Rodriguez, this was your idea, so you'll be responsible for overseeing the evaluation process. You'll work with our veterinarian and dog trainer to assess whether this family can successfully transition to base life. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Maria looked down at the German Shepherd mother, who was gazing up at her with those intelligent brown eyes. The dog seemed to understand that this moment was crucial for her family's future. "Yes, ma'am. I'm prepared to take full responsibility." "Good. Staff Sergeant Chen, modify your plan. Transport the animals to the veterinary facility, not to civilian animal control. Treat them as potential working dogs, not as strays. I want them handled with appropriate care." The animal control officer's demeanor changed immediately. Instead of reaching for the catch pole, he knelt down and extended his hand toward the German Shepherd mother, allowing her to sniff and assess him before any physical contact. "Come on. Beautiful," he said in a much gentler tone. "Let's get you and your babies somewhere safe and comfortable." The mother dog looked from Staff Sergeant Chen to Maria, clearly seeking guidance from the human she had learned to trust. Maria nodded encouragingly and began walking toward the animal control vehicles, and the German Shepherd followed with her puppies trailing behind. The transportation process was handled with care that reflected the animals' new status as potential military assets rather than unwanted strays. The mother dog and her puppies were placed in a large, comfortable carrier with soft bedding and fresh water. Through the carrier's mesh windows, Maria could see the mother watching everything with alert intelligence, still protective but no longer fearful. "Rodriguez," Washington said as they watched the vehicles prepare to leave, "you realize you just volunteered to become a dog trainer, right?" Maria smiled. "I realize that. But look at her, Washington. She's special. She saved her family through intelligence and determination. If we can give her the chance to use those same qualities to help protect our base, everyone wins." Chen joined the conversation as they watched the animal control vehicles drive away. "What's the first step in the evaluation process?" "Medical checkup first," Maria replied, her mind already working through the challenges ahead. then basic temperament testing to see how she responds to commands in different situations. If she passes those hurdles, we'll start with simple training exercises. The German Shepherd mother's face appeared at the carrier window as the vehicle turned a corner, her eyes still focused on Maria until the van disappeared from sight. In that brief moment, Maria felt the weight of the promise she had made, not just to Colonel Martinez or to the Marine Corps, but to a courageous mother who had trusted her with her family's future. Washington clapped Maria on the shoulder. "Well, Rodriguez, you've just turned a routine morning patrol into something nobody's going to forget. That dog better be as smart as you think she is." "She is," Maria said with confidence she hoped she could back up. "You saw how she handled that road crossing situation. She was problem-solving under pressure, adapting her strategy when the first approach didn't work, and prioritizing her family's safety over her own comfort. Those are exactly the qualities we need in a working dog." As they walked back toward the main base, Maria's radio buzzed with a message from the veterinary facility. "Sergeant Rodriguez, this is Captain Williams at the vet clinic. Your German Shepherd family has arrived, and I have to say, I'm impressed with the mother's demeanor. She's alert and responsive, but not aggressive. We'll start the medical evaluation immediately." "Thank you, Captain. How long before we know if they're healthy enough for training evaluation?" "If everything looks good, we could start behavioral testing as early as tomorrow." "But Rodriguez, I want you to understand that even if this dog has potential, training a working dog is a months-long process. Are you prepared for that kind of commitment?" Maria thought about the German Shepherd mother's eyes, the trust she had shown, and the courage she had displayed in protecting her family. "Yes, sir. I'm prepared." But as she spoke those words, Maria realized she was embarking on something much bigger than a simple animal rescue. She was about to find out whether a homeless mother dog could become a trained military asset, whether 4 tiny puppies could grow into valuable working dogs, and whether her own instincts about character and potential were as reliable as she hoped. The success or failure of this experiment would affect not just her own career, but the future of 5 animals who had already shown more courage and determination than many humans she had known. The real test was just beginning. The veterinary facility at Camp Pendleton was a modern, well-equipped clinic that handled everything from routine care for military working dogs to emergency treatment for animals injured in training exercises. When Maria arrived the next morning, she found Captain Williams waiting for her with a clipboard full of test results and observations. "Your German Shepherd mother is remarkable," he said without preamble. "Physically, she's in better condition than I expected for a dog that's been living rough. She's about 3 years old, well-proportioned for her breed, and shows signs of previous training. Someone put time and effort into this dog before she ended up on her own." Maria felt a mixture of relief and curiosity. Previous training? "What kind of signs?" She responds to basic commands given in a firm voice. "She's housebroken, and she has excellent bite inhibition, meaning she knows how to control the pressure of her bite. That's not something dogs learn in the wild. Plus, look at this." Captain Williams led Maria to a large enclosure where the German Shepherd mother was lying in a comfortable dog bed, nursing her 4 puppies. When she saw Maria approaching, her tail began to wag, and she stood up with obvious pleasure at seeing her human friend again. "Watch this," the veterinarian said. He called out, "Sit," in a clear, authoritative voice. The German Shepherd immediately sat, her posture straight and attentive, her eyes focused on Captain Williams's face. It was the perfect execution of a basic obedience command. "She knows stay, come, and down as well," Captain Williams continued. "This is definitely not a wild dog. She's either a lost pet or possibly even a dog with some professional training background." Maria knelt down beside the enclosure, and the German Shepherd came to the fence, pressing her nose through the chain link to sniff Maria's hand. The connection between them was still strong, the trust that had been built during the road crossing incident clearly intact. "What about the puppies?" Maria asked, watching the 4 little ones tumbling around their temporary home. "All healthy, all developing normally. The smallest female, the one with the floppy ear, is actually quite robust despite her size. They're probably about 7 weeks old now, which means they're at the perfect age to begin socialization training if we decide to move forward with your program." Sergeant Thompson, Maria's squad leader, arrived just as Captain Williams was finishing his report. He had been skeptical of Maria's proposal from the beginning, but Colonel Martinez had asked him to oversee the evaluation process to ensure military protocols were followed. Rodriguez, "I've been reviewing the requirements for military working dogs," he said, consulting his own clipboard. "The training program is intense. Basic obedience, specialized task training, handler bonding, and continuous evaluation. Even if this dog shows aptitude, we're looking at 6 months minimum before she could be considered for active duty." "I understand, Sergeant. But look at her foundation skills. She's already ahead of most dogs that enter military training programs." As if to prove Maria's point, the German Shepherd mother demonstrated another behavior that impressed everyone present. One of her puppies, the chunky male with the distinctive facial markings, had wandered too close to the fence and was trying to squeeze his head through the chain link. Instead of simply pulling him back, the mother dog gently picked him up and carried him to the center of the enclosure, then lay down in a position that created a natural barrier between her babies and the fence. "That's tactical thinking," Thompson observed with grudging admiration. "She's not just reacting to a problem. She's preventing future problems." Captain Williams nodded. "I've been working with military dogs for 8 years, and I can tell you that kind of proactive problem-solving is rare. Most dogs are reactive. They respond to situations after they develop. This one anticipates and prevents issues." Maria felt a surge of vindication. Her instincts about this dog's exceptional intelligence were being confirmed by professionals who worked with military animals every day. "So what's the next step?" she asked. "We moved to phase 2 of the evaluation," Thompson replied. "Controlled exposure to military environments. We need to see how she handles noise, crowds, vehicles, and other working dogs. If she passes those tests, we'll begin formal training." Over the next week, the German Shepherd mother, whom Maria had begun calling Courage, was exposed to a carefully planned series of tests. She was taken to the motor pool to observe her reaction to large vehicles and mechanical noise. She passed easily, showing alertness but no fear or aggression. She was introduced to other military working dogs to test her social behavior. Again, she excelled, demonstrating the confident but non-confrontational attitude that was ideal for a working dog that would need to operate around other animals. The most challenging test came when she was exposed to simulated combat sounds, recordings of gunfire, explosions, and helicopter noise played at gradually increasing volumes. Many dogs, even those bred for military work, struggled with these intense auditory challenges. Courage stood calmly through the entire sequence, her ears rotating to track the sounds, but her body language remaining relaxed and attentive. When the sounds reached their loudest level, she actually moved closer to Maria, positioning herself between her handler and the direction of the noise, a protective behavior that thrilled the training staff. "She's not just tolerating the noise," observed Master Sergeant Lisa Park, the base's senior dog trainer. "She's treating it as a tactical situation where her job is to protect her handler. That's advanced thinking for a dog with no formal military training." But the most remarkable moment came during a test that wasn't planned. While Courage was being evaluated in a training yard, an emergency alarm sounded across the base. A medical helicopter was making an emergency landing at the base hospital, and all personnel needed to clear certain areas immediately. Most dogs would have been startled or confused by the sudden alarm and the rapid movement of personnel responding to the emergency. Courage, however, seemed to understand that something important was happening. She moved immediately to Maria's side, sat in a perfect heel position without being commanded, and remained calm and alert while the emergency played out around them. "That," said Master Sergeant Park, "is exactly the kind of response we need from a military working dog. She reads situations, makes good decisions, and focuses on her handler's safety above everything else." The puppies, meanwhile, were developing their own personalities under the careful observation of the veterinary staff. The smallest female, nicknamed Floppy by the kennel staff, was showing signs of inheriting her mother's intelligence and courage. The chunky male was proving to be incredibly food-motivated, which made him easy to train. The other 2 puppies were developing into confident, playful animals with the stable temperaments that suggested they too might be suitable for working dog careers. After 2 weeks of evaluation, Colonel Martinez called a meeting to review the results and make a final decision about the program's future. Maria sat in the conference room with her test results and observation reports, knowing that everything she had promised was about to be judged by people who would base their decision Purely on facts and practical considerations, the German Shepherd, mother's future and that of her 4 babies, would be determined in the next few minutes. Colonel Martinez entered the conference room with the measured pace of a commander who had made thousands of difficult decisions during her military career. She was followed by Captain Williams, Master Sergeant Park, Sergeant Thompson, and 2 officers from base security whom Maria didn't recognize. The atmosphere was professional but tense. Everyone understood that this meeting would determine the fate of 5 animals who had already captured the attention of personnel across the Cherry. Sergeant Rodriguez, the colonel began, settling into her chair at the head of the conference table. You made a significant promise 2 weeks ago. You claimed that a homeless German Shepherd mother could be transformed into a valuable military asset. The time has come to evaluate whether that promise can be kept. Maria straightened in her chair, her hands steady despite the importance of the moment. Yes, ma'am. I believe the evaluation results support my assessment. Master Sergeant Park opened the discussion by presenting her training evaluation. Ma'am, in 22 years of working with military dogs, I have rarely encountered an animal with this combination of natural intelligence, emotional stability, and protective instincts. The dog we're calling Courage has demonstrated aptitude levels that typically take months of training to achieve. She pulled out a folder filled with test scores and behavioral observations. Her response to noise stress was exceptional. 95% calm behavior maintained even under simulated combat conditions. Her social integration with other working dogs was perfect. No aggression, appropriate submission to pack hierarchy, strong focus on human handlers. Most importantly, her protective positioning during the emergency helicopter landing showed tactical thinking that suggests she could excel in security work. Captain Williams added his medical perspective. From a health standpoint, both the mother and all 4 puppies are in excellent condition. The mother shows no signs of trauma or behavioral damage from her time living rough. The puppies are developing normally and showing early signs of the intelligence and stability we've observed in their mother. Colonel Martinez listened carefully, occasionally making notes. What about the cost analysis and practical considerations? One of the security officers, Lieutenant Colonel James Peterson, consulted his tablet. Ma'am, the cost of training Courage to working dog status would be approximately $15,000 over 6 months. For comparison, acquiring a pre-trained military working dog from commercial sources typically costs between $25,000 and $40,000. If even half of the puppies prove suitable for training, we could potentially develop a working dog unit at a fraction of normal acquisition costs. And the security applications? The colonel asked. Extensive, ma'am, Lieutenant Colonel Peterson replied. Base perimeter patrols, vehicle inspections, crowd control support, and potentially specialized detection work if she shows aptitude for scent training. A dog with her demonstrated protective instincts could be particularly valuable for personnel security details. Sergeant Thompson, who had been the most skeptical voice throughout the process, surprised everyone with his assessment. Ma'am, I have to admit that my initial reservations were unfounded. This dog has exceeded every benchmark we've established. More importantly, she's already bonded strongly with Sergeant Rodriguez, which could accelerate the handler training process significantly. Colonel Martinez turned her attention to Maria. Sergeant Rodriguez, Master Sergeant Park has recommended that you be trained as Courage's primary handler. That would mean additional responsibilities, specialized training, and a significant time commitment. Are you prepared for that? Maria had been hoping for this moment since the evaluation process began. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Courage and I have already established a working relationship. I believe we could be an effective team. There's one more factor to consider, Captain Williams interjected. The publicity aspect. Word about this rescue and evaluation has spread throughout the base and beyond. We've had inquiries from military publications and even some civilian media outlets. This could become a positive public relations story for the Corps. Colonel Martinez leaned back in her chair, considering all the information presented. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning system. Outside the conference room windows, Maria could see Marines going about their daily training routines, unaware that a decision was being made that could change the lives of 5 animals and potentially establish a new program for the base. I've made my decision, the colonel announced. The program is approved. Courage will begin formal military working dog training immediately, with Sergeant Rodriguez as her primary handler. The 4 puppies will be raised in our kennel facility and evaluated for working dog potential as they mature. Maria felt a wave of relief and excitement wash over her, but the colonel wasn't finished. However, she continued, this program will be closely monitored. Courage must meet every training milestone and maintain the high standards we've observed during evaluation. If at any point her performance falls below military working dog requirements, the program will be terminated and alternative arrangements made for the animals. Understood, ma'am, Maria replied. We won't let you down. Master Sergeant Park, you'll oversee the training program and provide regular progress reports. Captain Williams, continue medical monitoring for all 5 animals. Lieutenant Colonel Peterson, coordinate with base security to identify specific roles where Courage's skills can be best utilized. As the meeting concluded and officers began filing out of the room, Colonel Martinez asked Maria to remain behind. Sergeant Rodriguez, what you've accomplished here goes beyond animal rescue. You identified potential where others saw only problems. You took initiative when rules and regulations might have discouraged action. Those are leadership qualities that the Marine Corps values highly. Maria felt honored by the recognition, but her thoughts were focused on the German Shepherd mother, who had trusted her with her family's future. Ma'am, Courage did the hard part. She kept her family alive and safe until help could arrive. I just recognized what she had already proven. Perhaps, but recognition of potential, whether in animals or in people, is a rare and valuable skill. I'll be watching your progress with this program, Sergeant. I suspect this won't be the last time you surprise us with unconventional solutions. Later that afternoon, Maria stood beside Courage's enclosure at the veterinary facility, watching the German Shepherd mother play gently with her 4 puppies. The little ones had grown noticeably in just 2 weeks, and their personalities were becoming more distinct each day. Floppy, the smallest female, had begun following her mother's example by positioning herself protectively near her siblings during feeding time. The chunky male had already mastered several basic commands and showed remarkable food motivation that would make training easier. Ready to start your new career, girl? Maria asked softly. Courage looked up at her with those intelligent brown eyes, her tail wagging gently. She moved to the fence and pressed her nose through the chain link, seeking the contact that had become their ritual greeting. In that moment, Maria remembered the terrifying scene from 2 weeks earlier. The desperate mother dog trying to guide her babies across a dangerous road. The risk of tragedy that had brought them all together. The split-second decision to help rather than simply observe. That decision had saved 5 lives and created opportunities that none of them could have imagined. Courage would soon begin training that could make her one of the most capable working dogs on the base. Her puppies would grow up in safety with the potential to follow in their mother's footsteps. And Maria had discovered that sometimes the most important leadership decisions happen not in conference rooms or training exercises, but in moments when someone vulnerable needed help and you had the courage to provide it. The German Shepherd mother who had once risked everything to protect her family was about to begin a new chapter where she would extend that same protective instinct to an entire military community. The road crossing that had nearly ended in tragedy had instead become the beginning of an extraordinary partnership between human and animal courage. As the sun set over Camp Pendleton, Maria made a silent promise to the remarkable dog who had trusted her with so much. They would succeed together, proving that sometimes the best solutions come not from following regulations, but from recognizing potential and having the courage to act on it. The real work was just beginning, but Maria had no doubt that she and Courage were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead.